Hey everybody, welcome to this episode, Coffee with John. Looking forward to talking with Sandeep Acharya. Sandeep, it's really great to connect with you. You're the founder and CEO of Octave Health, basically a platform for people to find more affordable and higher quality mental health options. And so I want to dive right in with you on that because there seems to be an existential mental health issue going on in the world as this will air in April of 2026. And so, just so we can put kind of a fingerprint on that, it seems to me a lot of the therapists that I talk to are so busy they can't even take on new patients. People that I talk to, not all, but many, seem to be who need therapy, say it's so hard to find somebody who's actually then also taking new patients. How do you think, let's start here. How did we get here?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here.
I think the way we got here is, first off, it's actually really hard to find open spots on a therapist's calendar. So just to be like, if you go to a primary care doctor, they have 2,000 patients they can see. A therapist can only see 25 or 30, right? And so a lot of therapists don't take insurance, and because they can charge cash and people will pay directly, they don't have to deal with that. But those that do, maybe they have 3 or 4 spots open. So in order to find those therapists, you have to call hundreds. And because there hasn't been the right infrastructure in place to make it easy for you to see who has availability, people are searching on their own. And that process has been brutal and frankly, like underinvested in for multiple decades until about 4 or 5 years ago in the pandemic. And in the pandemic, a lot of insurance companies woke up and said, we have to fix this. And it started a growth in access that we've seen. In the community, but it's still a challenge.
And do you think it kind of sparked a level of awareness during COVID? Because, and we can point to many studies, and we can point to just being around people. Anxiety seemed to go way up March of 2020. When lockdown started and schools began to shut down. And so my question is, as you saw this window to start your company, what were some of the fundamental pieces you looked at and said, okay, this company needs to offer this because of blank?
That's a great question. So I started the company in 2018 before the pandemic. And at the time, I was actually the head of strategy of One Medical. It's a primary care clinic that offered really high quality primary care. And so the number one thing I focused on was I want to work with insurance. Because that's the only way it can really be affordable for a lot of Americans. Right. But I don't want to compromise on the quality of care. So I want to make sure that the therapist is paid appropriately, and I want to make sure that the patient's getting the right care. So those are the 3 things.
Things in, just to kind of, put things out, as we sit here today, therapists range from anywhere between $125 to $400 an hour, right? That's so if they're not taking insurance, and you don't have, the means, it's hard to see a therapist once a week at those rates.
Yep.
Right. So your market kind of taps into that market.
That's right. So if the cost of treatment might be several $1,000s to see a therapist on a cash basis, but if you're working through insurance, it can be as little as $20 copay. And so it suddenly becomes affordable for a lot of people. So the question is, how do you make that insurance process of using your insurance easier for patients? And by the way, how do you make it easier for therapists who themselves don't have huge teams? Like you go to your doctor's office, there's 3 or 4 administrators sitting around. Therapists can't afford to do that. So how do you make it easier for them to take insurance as well?
I would say if I'm a listener right now, I'm thinking to myself, insurance companies, there's nothing easy about dealing with an insurance company. I would be thinking a listener would be saying that. And so how does your platform, Octave or Active? Octave. Okay. Octave Health. How does it make it frictionless for the patient?
Well, we've been operating for 8 years. You can go to the website and find a therapist in your state that sees your insurance and sees the kinds of issues, and you can actually just do it in a drop-down filter. But what's also really exciting is we've taken that technology and we've packaged it into a product called WiseMatch. And we're partnering with insurance companies all over the country to offer that level of service inside the payer portal. So you can go to your local insurance company and actually look on their site for not just therapists that work at Octave, but across a wide range of mental health companies and technology platforms, because we convince them to work with us
Yeah.
into one system so that people can make it easier for themselves.
So you create a platform, Octave Health, where therapists work. Tell me if I'm getting this right. Therapists work under the umbrella of Octave Health.
That's right.
People come to the website and they can pair up their insurance with the therapists under your platform that are really just kind of part of your platform. You then took your platform to other groups, created Wise Match, so they can kind of tap in and go outside of your network as well.
That's right. So there are 2,000 therapists that choose to run their practices through Octave, but there are 150,000 collectively that work inside of platforms that we now integrate with and have a unified scheduling system for. And that is Wise Match.
And when you were building your platform, because I think a lot of times people are always looking at where can I take friction out of a process? How can I build a platform that is simple for someone? Because without simple, they leave.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you get to simple?
So many, because the thing is, like, if you're building for people have different needs. So some people are coming and they might think they have an eating disorder, but actually have something else. So we needed to have something that was simple enough that people can do with a click, click, click. But if we found something that needed more complexity, you can talk to a human. And that took years of iterating. In the beginning, we made it a phone call. Like, you had every single person needed to talk to us. But over time, we realized, okay, here's ways that we can make it easier. So we started asking questionnaires and slimming those questionnaires down. So the answer was, it was about 5 or 6 years of rigorous data and testing from launch to where we are to get to make it simple.
So I think what you're saying is you made it easier to put some of the empowerment onto the patient, future patient, to learn to raise their level of awareness about themselves, giving them tools that allow them to intrinsically, like, kind of almost like identify maybe where some of the root issues are. So by the time they talk to someone, I would imagine then the conversation is more productive.
That's right. So a couple things that people might not think to ask themselves is, like, what kind of style or approach am I looking for? Am I looking for someone who's warm or someone who's challenging? You wouldn't think that, but that actually makes a big difference in terms of who you're going to open up to more. Or is there specific kinds of treatment styles that I think are really important? Or, and there's a very big difference between the kinds of people that are that work with us. And so we give the patient a means of finding out. Simple is right. Making things simple is actually really hard.
It's really hard, right? I think it was Mark Twain or Winston Churchill. There's different things that suggest both. If I had more time, I would have written a shorter page. Yeah. But what you're talking about, Sandeep, also is, I think, one of the arts of business, and I see this as a business coach, is it doesn't matter what role you're in, whether you're in sales, whether you're in management, an owner, an executive, C-level exec. If you can help define something for someone that they feel it's in kind of the tip of their tongue, it's in the back of their head, if you can help define what that is and help define it through a question to access a piece of their thinking that they can't get to on their own. I see that in my business all the time as a business coach. I'm not a therapist, but as a business coach, it's those questions that ignite people and get them into a space they can't get to on their own. And if they could, it may take 1, 2, or 3 years longer to access, but it's amazing the power of a question. And so I want to know, how did you figure out the questions to ask as people are kind of doing this self-evaluation?
Well, first of all, I myself have benefited from therapy.
Same, by the way, same. I've been going to therapy for 25 years. I think it's the greatest.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been 2 or 3 short episodes that both created huge unlocks, like how I manage anxiety, how I kind of handle attention and focus were kind of important ones. But honestly, what we try to do is get the smart people in the room. And there are a couple people. You can't design a process for patients without involving clinicians.
Yeah.
So we have a clinical leader who we ask what is really important for them. And the number one question I ask that I want everyone to walk away with is, ask the therapists, how are you finding therapy?
Yeah.
They're the people who are the experts. So that we design our process. Our whole business is built around asking therapists how they find therapy, and then just replicating that process for everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. All right. So you started this business in 2018. What led to you wanting to start this business?
Well, I've been interested in entrepreneurship since I was 14 years old. I was in New Jersey. Both my parents were programmers, and I tried to convince a local real estate agent to list his properties online.
Yeah.
He turned me down and ended up coming to the idea 2 years later and paying twice as much. But I've just always been interested in technology's ability to improve people's lives. But healthcare really struck me because I've seen loved ones struggle from lack of access to healthcare. So I've been in healthcare for 15 years. But mental health specifically, when I was in One Medical and working in primary care, what I saw was just professionally how many patients were struggling for lack of good quality care.
Yeah.
And then personally, a good friend of mine had a traumatic incident. He was walking down the street in Midtown Manhattan when someone landed on him, committing suicide.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
horrible. It was a horrible thing. And, in his PTSD state, he walked to work and he just felt this guilt about it for a long time. And he started medicating through drinking. And he tried to see a therapist. He couldn't find one. And he didn't get back into mental health care for 7 years. And he's a type 1 diabetic. And just seeing the impacts of controlling substance use on his overall health, it really struck for me that I really care about healthcare, but you really can't care about healthcare and really improve someone's healthcare without understanding where they are in their mental and emotional state. And here I was so passionate about healthcare, but our system just did not do enough or pay enough attention to mental health. And in 2018, there just weren't, in my opinion, enough people focused on the problem. I'm grateful we've got some really sharp people thinking about the problem now, but that's what really inspired me to start the company.
Let me ask you a question. That's a tragic but beautiful story. It ignited something in you. And I always find sometimes that, the best out there teach their pain, right? Whether it's your pain or watching somebody else's pain, and then they turn that pain into something to help other people. So I love the intent of where this came from. And I'm sorry about your friend, and I'm sorry about the incidents in the family of all of those families that had to endure that. But I also think it brings up a bigger question, which is how hard it is to ask for help. In both of those cases, it would be so nice to rewind and have somebody, earlier in both of their lives, teach a class even, or some mentor talk about the strength of asking and how to ask for help. And what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to your platform?
Well, first of all, the journey of trust is something that is just different for everybody, right? Trusting a system, trusting a therapist, right? With what you're really feeling. And I do think that there's a lot of people out there that just don't know how to ask for help.
Right.
And I hope that this podcast and this conversation and the thousands of other conversations that are happening are giving people permission.
Right.
Honestly, what strikes me though is that I think relative to 15 or 20 years ago, more and more people are asking for help, but we're just not giving them a clear pathway, right? If everybody knew they can go to one place and find the help they need, I think more people would find it. But I'm discouraged.
I would agree with both of those things. And I think, by the way, I have, no degree other than a bachelor's degree from college. I failed every pre-med class I ever took for a year. So, when I dropped out of pre-med after a year, my parents said, thank God, nobody wants to go to a doctor that's getting D's. So I don't say this with any, certificate. But it seems to me that in a world that is changing with AI, which we'll get to in a minute, dramatically, and colleges, many years ago, I read a few articles that talked about how colleges needed to start teaching adaptability because they were teaching into a job market that that they didn't know what it looked like yet.
Mm.
And so if we look at some of the soft skills that people need in today's world, I mean, what are your thoughts on teaching stuff like this in more dominantly in elementary school and middle school and medical school and law school and colleges? I mean, yes. I mean, did I fail calculus? Yes. But did I need calculus? Absolutely not. But, asking for help, if it's not done at home, somebody's got to teach it. So
Yeah.
where is it supposed to be taught? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of things that you learn in therapy that I think everybody should just have access to, right? Like how to challenge difficult thoughts, how to avoid ruminating on things that are difficult, like how to push through when something doesn't work, like concepts of mindfulness. I do think that there should be a lot more psychology utilized in basic education, and we see some of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's yet in public school curriculum, but there's a lot of stuff for kids. I have 3 daughters. And I'm really, my 5-year-old came home one day and showed me a mindfulness technique that she learned at school. Right. So we need that because I think we're all more aware of what happens when people aren't provided that basic level of health literacy.
Yeah.
Right? Not just mental health, but physical health literacy. It can totally change outcomes if you know what you're doing.
And it seems now, and we can point to lots of stats, why it's more important now than ever. It's more important now than ever. Okay, so let's talk about that. How do people jump on your site? How do they get a therapist? And what's the secret for consistency for the patient to keep it going?
Well, first of all, so findoctave.com is our site. Easy to find a therapist on that site. I would also encourage you, if you're in a state that we don't cover, to check your insurance portal to look for folks. We're working with insurance companies all over the world, so Wise Match will show up there, even if it's not listed as such. And then you asked the question of how do you get the most out of therapy, which is a great, try just one, have an open mind. Don't expect progress to occur right away. And by the way, this is everything my chief psychologist would tell you. I've asked her this question in the past. Yeah. You don't expect progress to happen right away. The first couple sessions, your therapist is listening. Try to align on your goals. What are you in there for? Like, what are you trying to get out of this? In an ideal world, what would happen as a result of this? And then sometimes realize that progress means feeling worse before you feel better, because you're unearthing things that are hard truths and comfortable. So I would just say, be persistent, stick with it. But if you feel like after a month you don't really trust your person, you have the right to change who you work with. You don't have to stick with the person that you initially work with if you don't feel like there's a good match or good trust. Yeah. Those are 3 or 4 things I would give you.
Good. Those are great. Those are great tools. I love that. How are you using AI on your platforms today?
Where our value is human beings first. We are not going to provide any AI-based care provision. What we do is our clinicians use AI to help themselves with administrative work on the back end, summarizing notes. But for the most part, what we're thinking about is that people are going to be increasingly discovering care after AI conversations. People used to search for care and Google, and now we're thinking they're using ChatGPT and other LLMs. And so a lot of where we're focused is, how do you create a layer where if someone is looking for help, they're not just relying on an AI chatbot, but a seamless transition into a human being. And that's where we're focusing a lot of our product time and attention.
I've been in therapy had a therapist for 25 plus years. And my therapist, who used to live locally, moved. And so now I meet with him via Zoom. It's a big difference. I really miss the face-to-face. How are you seeing people, not that it's not effective, but how are you seeing the connectability between patient and therapist when it's just Teams or Zoom versus in person?
So great question. First off, I should clarify, we're not just virtual. We have therapists who offer in-person appointments across the country. Overwhelmingly, patient preference in some of our home markets has switched to virtual. we used to have clinics in 2019 and where people were seen, and we saw all of our patients migrate from clinics to Zoom. Although you lose that intimacy, we saw no changes to outcomes. We monitored and looked at satisfaction. And one thing we did see was less no-shows, right? Because you got to knock off work, you got to budget for the logistics. In the Zoom, it's much easier. But we did see that in big cities where people don't have private spaces, they struggled with that. So with those caveats, I would just say, I think that Zoom-based or Teams-based or video-based therapy can be as effective as in person. But it's really the patient's preference. You should look for what you feel most comfortable in.
All right, good. All right, quick speed round. Book that made a big impact on you.
How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. I have to navigate a startup and 3 kids and a sort of demanding set of job, and so just being thoughtful about your time allocation, just be present with your kids and how you manage your week. It was very helpful for me.
It's great. If you could have coffee with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh man, Kendrick Lamar. I just think he's so creative as a writer. I'm a musician. We didn't get to it, but he's an amazing artist.
All right, good. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
So I worked for Mayor Kevin Johnson for a summer, and his advice, because he made the transition from NBA to being a politician, is act like you got tickets. No matter where you are, you deserve to be there, and so don't be intimidated by the room you're in.
That's great. Act like you have the tickets. That's a good one. Finish this sentence, Sandeep. One thing everybody can do to ask for help is?
That's a good question. Don't hesitate to make yourself vulnerable. Realize that everyone in this world has something that they're dealing with, and it doesn't make you less than to be open about what it is that you're dealing with.
Everybody's going through their own stuff. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, where they can connect with you, your website, all that other great stuff.
We see today we see adults over 18. Our ideal clients are anybody who's really navigating and needs help. We're on findoctave.com, where you can find us. You can learn more about the product we're building, WiseMatch, on wisematch.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Substack and Spotify. Just in terms of the content I make.
What's your podcast?
No, I write music.
Oh, you write music. Oh, tell me, what kind of music do you write?
Indian influenced R&B.
Oh, you got to shoot me, email me your link. I'd love to listen to it.
Sure.
How long you been writing music for?
25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in an Indian American group in college, and we toured all over the country in India, and so ever since I've been hooked.
Good for you. That's great. All right. Well, that's show number 2. Well,
exactly. It's all over topic.
About your music. Sandeep, this was really great. I enjoyed our conversation. Appreciate what you're doing to help other people. It's huge right now, and people need access to great therapists right now. It seems to me that anxiety is going nowhere but up, and people need to figure out and get more tools on how to recalibrate, find their center, get back to center, and get things off their chest, off their shoulders, and talk to somebody to just, kind of get back to, some center ground. So I appreciate what you have built and the people you're helping. Think Big Community. If Sandeep can help you, check out his website. If I can help you, you can check out my website at johndwoskin.com. Sandeep, thanks. Hold on for a second, but thanks so much. This was great.
Nice to spend time with you.